Whatever you would have me do, I'll do the best that I can do, and offer all I do to you with all my heart, with all my heart. You give me songs my heart can sing, with light and grace each day you bring, and walk with me through everything this life does impart, this life does impart. I'm really just a flute you play, you give me all the words to say, and guide me through each night and day of time's endless rounds, of time's endless rounds. Oh, you have stolen my heart and filled up each and every part with your love, with your name you do impart. Your songs endless sounds, your songs endless sounds. Whatever you would have me do, I'll do the best that I can do, and offer all I do to you with all my heart, with all my heart, with all my heart.
Om Tadekam Smaramas-tadekam Bhajamaha Tadekam Jagat Sakshi Rupam Namamaha Sadekam Nidhanam Niralambamisham Bhavam Bodhipotam Sharanyam Vrajamaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. On that alone do we meditate, that alone do we worship, to that alone, the witness of the universe, do we bow, to that one who is our sole eternal support, the self-existent Lord, the raft to safety across the ocean of this world, do we come for refuge. Om, peace, peace, peace. Good morning. Now I know who are the real die-hard Vedantists, showing up on a rainy Sunday like this, instead of staying home safe and dry and all of that. So thanks for coming, and today our topic, and thanks for the beautiful opening song, Jayanti. The topic today, how to eat humble pie and actually enjoy it. So I was thinking, well, Thanksgiving is coming up. We eat pies at Thanksgiving, and after all, humility is a good quality to cultivate. We're asked to cultivate humility, humble pie. Turns out that humble pie is not something people enjoy eating, and the definition actually it's a little stronger than I realized. Some of the definitions emphasize that it's a humiliating experience to be forced to apologize abjectly or admit one's faults in humiliating circumstances. That means to eat humble pie. So that doesn't sound very enjoyable for sure. though that's the American Heritage Dictionary. Merriam-Webster says just to admit that one was wrong or accept that one has been defeated. So that doesn't quite sound quite so bad. Now the term humble pie actually comes from umble pie, and umbles are the innards, the offal, mostly of a deer, whatever the kidneys and whatever that. So that was the low-class food. The poor people would make the rich people would have the good meat, and the poor people would have the innards of the deer, and they would make a pie out of that. And then somehow it sounds like humble, and the H probably would have been silent anyway in those days in England, so it became a kind of a pun, eating humble pie. The pie of the lowly people, the poor people, the humble people. And then this idea that you have to eat something which you don't want to eat. You have to own up to the fact that you were wrong. You have to apologize. Why is that so hard? Why is it so hard for us to admit, gosh, I was wrong. I was wrong. I apologize. For many people, that's hard to do. Is it because we lack a certain honesty about ourselves? Is it because we don't see ourselves in the clear light, and maybe we don't see our faults and our foibles? Maybe it's because, do we place our self-worth, even our identity, in some kind of image that we project to others? So I'd like to take today to look a little bit more deeply at this idea of humility and being humble. And I wonder if it might be a key to unlock a little more peace and joy in our lives, a key to living a more authentic life, a key to being able to apologize sincerely and feel good about doing it. And perhaps even a key to having more fulfilling relationships with others. Ultimately, a key to finding God. But it gets a bad rap. Humility gets a bad rap. And I think it's often misunderstood as weakness or self-denigration. And religions may be somewhat to blame for this. If you look at a classic religious text like The Imitation of Christ, which, by the way, I love, but you have to read it with understanding the language is different. So the chapter on humility in The Imitation of Christ, which is the second chapter in the book, ends like this. If thou wouldst know and learn something to the purpose, love to be unknown, and to be esteemed as nothing. This is the highest and most profitable lesson, truly to know and to despise ourselves. To despise ourselves. This doesn't sit well with us as Vedantists. Clearly the author recognizes that this craving for name and fame, the living for the image we project in others' eyes, and cultivating pride of position or lineage or money or ability or looks. These are all vicious pride. These are obstacles in spiritual life. No doubt. But this attitude of despising oneself, this actually has the same defect. It's also an obstacle in spiritual life. It's still self-directed. It's an obsession with me, only now instead of trying to raise up myself, I'm trying to despise myself. It's a negative. So I'll start with a very, perhaps overly simplistic definition of humility, but one that stuck with me since I heard it. If having a high opinion of oneself is pride, humility is not having a low opinion of oneself. That would be more like shame, perhaps. Humility might be having no opinion of oneself, reducing our infatuation with ourselves. Another way of putting it is, it's a nice little play on words here. Humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. Not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. Sri Ramakrishna also didn't like that lowly attitude, the self-hating attitude. And for instance, once the devotee Balaram, his father was visiting, and his father was a very devout Vaishnava. And the Vaishnavas have this idea of cultivating humility. But in Sri Ramakrishna's eyes, obviously it went too far, because he says, he's looking at Balaram's father, and he says, the Vaishnavas have a very humble and lowly attitude. They tell their rosary, means they count using the beads, they repeat the name of God so many times. They tell their rosary and whine and whimper, "O Krishna, be gracious to us. We are wretched, we are sinners." And then he counters this, he says, one should have such fiery faith as to be able to say, I have uttered the name of God. How can I be a sinner? Imagine someone repeating the name of Hari, the name of God, day and night, and at the same time saying, I am a sinner. They're incompatible. And he cautions us, one who says constantly, or one who repeats constantly, I am a sinner, I am a wretch, becomes a sinner, becomes a wretch. We become what we think of ourselves. If we're constantly think of ourselves as sinners, we're going to think that we're sinners. We're going to be sinners. So Sri Ramakrishna would say, repeat the name of God and have that faith. How can I be a sinner? In the immortal words of Vivekananda, ye divinities on earth, it is a sin to call you sinners. So it's a kind of a false humility. Swami Vivekananda also chastised one of his brother disciples about this kind of humility. He said to Shashi Maharaj, Swami Ramakrishnananda, that small-mindedness, self-deprecating attitude is a disease. Do you call that humility? That is vanity in disguise. Interesting. He calls it vanity in disguise to have that kind of self-deprecating attitude. If you harbor that attitude, you will be left behind forever. So we can set aside that incorrect understanding of humility. Sri Ramakrishna, however, he did emphasize reducing egotism and pride. He has a funny story about it. He says, a frog had a rupee, which he kept in his hole. One day an elephant was going over the hole, and the frog, coming out in a fit of anger, raised his foot as if to kick the elephant and said, how dare you walk over my head? Such is the pride that money begets. So just see, somebody gets some money and they get this pride so much that a frog had 1 rupee and he's ready to kick an elephant. The elephant wouldn't even notice a frog. So he has this beautiful way of envisioning our ego. He says there are 2 kinds of ego, an unripe ego and a ripe ego. And I always think of mangoes when he tells this story, because mango is a perfect fruit, perfect example. If you have an unripe mango, which is the quintessential fruit of India, it's hard. And it's very hard to eat it, and it's very sour. And it hurts. But when it gets ripe, it gets soft and juicy, and there's nothing like a really good, juicy, ripe mango. So he likens the unripe ego to that ego of pride, that ego of arrogance that we all have in us. And he tells, he says, this unripe ego makes one feel, I am the doer. I am the son of a wealthy man. I am learned. I am rich. How dare anyone slight me? Someone with an unripe ego, he says, cherishes such ideas. Suppose a thief, here he gives an example of someone with an unripe ego. Suppose a thief has entered such a person's house and stolen some of his belongings. If the thief is caught, all the articles will be snatched away from him. Then he will be beaten. At last he will be handed over to the police. The owner of the stolen goods will say, "What? This rogue doesn't know whose house he has entered." So, poor thief. No, it's not bad enough to be caught and then to be beaten and then handed over to the police. So, it's and then he goes further. He says, "There's the ego of old age. An old man has many shackles: caste, pride, shame, hatred, and fear. If he is angry with anybody, he cannot shake it off easily. Perhaps he keeps the feeling as long as he lives. The ego of old age is an unripe ego." So then he contrasts this. He contrasts it with, he says, the servant ego, or the knowledge ego, or the devotee ego may be called the ripe ego. This feeling that I am the servant of God, I am the child of God, does not injure one. On the contrary, it helps one to realize God. So in some ways, the path to a genuine spiritual life is a path of placing that unripe ego on the windowsill, in the sunlight of the love of God, and you put it in a little paper bag, and that paper bag is the bag of of humility, maybe. And that ego starts to ripen and starts to become soft and sweet. And it's sweet not only for others, it's sweet for ourselves. We ourselves taste the sweetness of that ripe ego, the ego that considers that I am a servant of the divine, I'm a child of the divine, or I am a spark of the divine. Here in America, it seems like nowadays we're in a phase of what has been called hyper-individualism. Hyper-individualism, emphasizing our individuality at the cost of understanding that we live in community, we live with others, we depend on each other. On the one hand, the American "I can do it" attitude is wonderful. And Swami Vivekananda very much appreciated that. When he came here, he saw Americans are ready to do it themselves. And we're still ready. We are the DIY country. Do it yourself. We do it ourselves. And that's wonderful. We have Americans have this tremendous faith in ourselves that we can do it. And Swami Vivekananda really appreciated that. But we see now the downside of that, or the dark underbelly of that, and it's clearly being fed by what I call anti-social media, this hyper-individualism. We're forgetting that we are interconnected, that we depend on each other, that this rise of narcissism, this rise of presenting our perfect image, concerned only with how other people think of me and not what I think of other people. The perfect picture on Instagram, but it's been filtered and photoshopped and all the wrinkles removed and everything. And sometimes I wonder, because we have emphasized the importance of self-esteem, that we should feel good about ourselves. Feel good about yourself. That's important. And it is important from the psychological standpoint. But I wonder if that emphasis has pulled us a little bit too far over into the realm of narcissism, that it's at the expense of recognizing our interdependence, that it's at the expense of remembering that we are also called to serve others. We're also called to help others. And I had a 7th grade teacher who was once was saying, that she hears some parents say, "Oh, I want my child to have confidence and, self-esteem and confidence." And she said, "Confidence? All the confidence won't help you if you're not able to tie your shoes. Rather have competence, and the confidence will come of itself." So it was a nice little insight. If we develop competence, the confidence will come of itself. Now, I don't mean to suggest that self-esteem is not important. It is important. And there's also a kind of epidemic of low self-esteem brought about by dysfunctional parenting, criticizing one's children, sometimes mercilessly, and that leaves us with sometimes lifelong scars. So that is not what we're talking about here. That's also not humility. That's childhood trauma when we have that kind of low self-esteem. It's not humility at all. True humility, as I think we'll see, has to be based in a strong sense of self, a healthy sense of self, a realistic understanding of who we are. I'd like to turn to some contemporary psychological research. There's quite an interesting book called The Handbook of Humility, which is a collection of articles reviewing the different studies and thought about humility. And I'd like to just share a few ideas from this book. The authors suggest that humility has three core aspects. First, humility involves an accurate assessment of ourselves, an accurate assessment, including an awareness of our limitations. Second, humility involves a modest self-presentation, how we present ourselves to others, in person or even on Instagram. Humble individuals are not only honest in their self-assessment, but seek to be honest in their self-presentation. This means a lack of hypocrisy. Sri Ramakrishna used to call hypocrisy a theft in the chamber of your heart. But I know what I am in my heart, but if I present something else, that's like stealing out of my own heart. And third, humility involves an interpersonal stance that is other-oriented rather than self-oriented. In other words, and I'm reading from the book, humility is characterized by a benevolent orientation toward others. Humble people are attentive to others' needs, empathic, and prioritize shared outcomes above their own self-focused gain. So these three core aspects: accurate assessment of myself, a modest self-presentation that reflects how I understand myself, and a certain concern for others, not solely concerned with myself, but concerned with others, recognizing that I am in community, that I depend on others, that we are all part of the human race, the human family. A couple of other definitions that appealed to me. Humility is the lack of the appetite for self-importance. That brings us back to Sri Ramakrishna's idea, don't you know who I am? That rogue doesn't know whose house he has entered. That idea that I am important. Yes, I am important, but not at the expense of others. There's a thinker named Mark Cleary. He points this out particularly. The central feature that characterizes humble people, this is in his opinion, the central feature in Mark Cleary's opinion is hypo-egoic non-entitlement. That's a big term. Hypo means less, lower. Egoic, non-entitlement. They do not think that they are entitled to be treated special as a person because of their accomplishments or positive characteristics. So we recognize our strengths, our good qualities. But that doesn't mean that we should get all the special honor and respect for that, because everyone is equally entitled to being respected and honored. Now, the authors of this book point out, as we've been talking about this self-esteem, they say, humility, properly understood, requires a sense of security and enduring personal worth, and therefore provides a foundation that has important psychological implications for self-acceptance, a recognition of strengths and limitations, an ability to respond to others' ideas and advice, even if contrary to one's own views, and a freedom from relying on social comparison processes, motivated by a concern for social status. Well, that's a pretty big sentence. But what I take from this especially is that as they understand humility, as I'm trying to understand humility, as the idea appeals to me, we need a certain sense of our own worth as a human being. It's not a practice of having low self-esteem. I have my understanding of myself as a human being, as a worthy human being. I have my worth. And precisely because that sense of safety and security is with me, I don't have to be threatened if somebody criticizes me. I don't have to be puffed up if somebody praises me. There's an interesting observation they make. They say that humility is best observed in contexts where it is difficult to be humble. Just like courage is difficult to assess until someone is placed in danger and is afraid, or forgiveness is hard to evaluate until one is deeply hurt or offended. So humility is best observed when the ego is placed under strain. So how do we assess our own humility? When we're challenged, when someone offends us, or when we are faced with some difficult situation at work, at school, in the family. And they point out that different kinds of situations give us different kind of strain and stress. So there are likely different types of humility, and different people may not possess all the types of humility at the same time. They explore various kinds of humility. We're not going to get into that, but let me just read. It's interesting. Relational humility, humility in our interpersonal relationships, intellectual humility, political humility. That one seems to be particularly in short supply nowadays. Cultural humility, religious humility. One characteristic of intellectual humility that appeals to me is holding our beliefs gently, recognizing that they are just beliefs. We think they are true, but holding on to the possibility that, well, I could refine them. I didn't think this way 10 years ago. 5 years from now, I may also give up these ideas which I want to hold on to so tightly right now. And respecting others, no matter what they think or believe, and being willing to change our ideas. Turns out that we think of scientists as being rational, right? And if they're confronted with new evidence, we'll update our theory to match the new evidence. Not so. Many scientists will fight tooth and nail to defend their theory in the face of new evidence, and until it becomes an overwhelming flood of new evidence and they have to eat humble pie. Even Einstein, Albert Einstein, the genius who developed the theory of relativity, quantum mechanics came along and he wouldn't believe it. He couldn't accept it. And he fought against it until finally he was disproved. So, Father Greg Boyle, who I admire very much, he has the Homeboy Industries in Los Angeles, and he works with formerly incarcerated people and former gang members to rehabilitate them. And his main medicine is simply love, just unconditional love, and with remarkable results. And one of his famous quotes is, "There is no us and them, just us." This idea of increasing our circle of we. We have our we of our nuclear family, and maybe our we of our extended family, and our we of a Vedanta Society members, and our we of Santa Barbara residents. But some of those we's exclude them. I'm a Dodgers fan. Oh, Giants fan? that's them. No? I'm a Republican. Democrats, that's them. And vice versa. That's one of the hard ones in this country right now. But he says, there is no us and them. Just us. And he adds in one place, no matter how we voted. No matter how we voted, there's just us. Sri Ramakrishna gives I'd like to turn to a few of Sri Ramakrishna's teachings on humility. And it was on the 19th October 1884, and there was a celebration at the Brahmo Samaj in an area called Sinti in Calcutta. And Vijay Krishna Goswami, one of Sri Ramakrishna's admirers, was to perform the worship. But here he was in the presence of this God-intoxicated saint, this spiritual giant, and he is going to perform a worship service in the presence of Sri Ramakrishna, so he felt embarrassed, and he felt reluctant to go. But the hosts were saying, hey, it's time for the worship, go, go, go. So he kept asking Sri Ramakrishna for permission to go. And finally, Sri Ramakrishna says, it will be all right if you don't feel any egotism. If you don't have the vain feeling, I am giving a lecture, listen to me. What begets egotism? Knowledge or ignorance? It is only the humble person who attains knowledge. In a low place, rainwater collects. It runs down from a mound. So it gives this nice analogy of rainwater, which runs off of a high place and collects in a low place. He gives another funny example. You know, we have the Durga Puja here in Santa Barbara every year. In India, it's typically done in a clay image. And they dress it up beautifully. They dress the mother up with beautiful clothes and jewelry and flower garlands, and it's really remarkable. And then, as you know, or as probably most of us know, at the end of the worship, after 3 days of worship, they take that image and immerse her in the river. So it all comes to an end. So Sri Ramakrishna said, joking about this, he says, it is futile to be egotistic. Neither body nor wealth will last. Once a drunkard was looking at the image of Durga. At the sight of her decorations, he said, well, mother, however you may fix yourself up, after 2 or 3 days, they will drag you out and throw you into the Ganges. And everybody laughs. Being a drunkard, he said, you may dress yourself up, but after 2 or 3 days. So I say to you all, says Sri Ramakrishna, you may be a judge or anybody else, but it is all for 2 days only. Therefore, you should give up vanity and pride. Sri Ramakrishna, he was a kind of embodiment of humility. And one example I love is how when he first met Keshav Sen, Keshav Chandra Sen was a prominent reformer, a major leader of the Brahmo Samaj, Europeanized. He went to England, he met the Queen. And when he met Sri Ramakrishna, they had an immediate affinity for one another. They recognized each other as having some substance, some spiritual substance. But Keshav didn't have that attitude of respectful salutation that's traditional in the Hindu culture. So Sri Ramakrishna, when he first meets Keshav, he respectfully salutes him like this, and Keshav did something like just a little hand gesture. And then Sri Ramakrishna bowed down to the floor, his head touching the floor to salute Keshav. Then Keshav was forced to at least do this much. Gradually, by the end of Keshav's life, he actually bowed at Sri Ramakrishna's feet, placing his head on Ramakrishna's feet. So Sri Ramakrishna conquered Keshav, as it were, by humility, by prostrations, by giving him honor and respect. He taught him also how to honor a saint, how to honor a holy man. So this is the kind of humility Sri Ramakrishna had. There's another touching incident related in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. There were people in his room, including the young daughter of one of the devotees. She's 6 years old, maybe. And as he left the room, he left to go outside for a couple of minutes, and the girl saluted him, touching his feet probably. But he didn't notice. So when he comes back in, he's talking with the girl, and she says, I saluted you and you didn't even notice it. Sri Ramakrishna smiling, oh, did you? I didn't notice. You're right, I didn't notice. Then wait, I want to salute you again. Hey, wait, the other foot too, the other foot too. So she touches his feet. And Sri Ramakrishna laughs and he sits down, and then he himself salutes the girl, touching the ground with his forehead. He goes all the way down and salutes the girl himself. This is that beautiful humility. He's seeing the presence of the Divine Mother in this girl. So he's able to set aside any ideas of, it wouldn't be proper for me, a man of 48 years old, to bow down to a girl 6 years old in the presence of all these devotees. What will they think of me? There's none of that self-consciousness. Simply, like a child, he salutes this girl. So that's a very touching. And how did he attain this kind of utter lack of a sense of superiority, a feeling that I am superior to others? It's a remarkable and sobering practice he undertook. There was a sweeper at the Dakshineshwar temple compound where Sri Ramakrishna lived. Now the sweepers, it's called a sweeper, their job was to clean the toilets. And in those days there was no plumbing. So cleaning the toilets means removing the excrement, putting it in a basket, carrying that excrement on your head, and taking it out to where it would be buried or whatever they'd do with it. And then, of course, cleaning it. So these people were outcasts. They were shunned by society. They were considered most unclean. Yet there they were doing that work. And Sri Ramakrishna was a Brahmin, the highest class of people in the Hindu society. And many Brahmins are holy people. They have this devotion, they have humility, all these things. But this pride of caste is one of the last things to go. I am a Brahmin. It's kind of like the pride of, I am a Swami. So he wanted to clean the sweeper's own toilet. But the sweeper would never allow anybody like Sri Ramakrishna to do that. So in the middle of the night, he went. That time he was doing lots of austerities. He had long hair. He went to the toilet of the sweeper's home and cleaned the place with his hair. And he prayed, O Mother, make me the servant of the sweeper. Make me feel that I'm even lower than the sweeper. So this was how Sri Ramakrishna, when he wanted to do something, he took it to the extreme. He wanted to remove all pride of birth, all pride of caste, and this is how he did it. I love this description of Swami Vivekananda. Miss Waldo, his close disciple, who edited many of his works for publication, was, of course, towards the beginning of her discipleship. She had had a wide experience in teachers, and this is the description of Sister Devamata. And sooner or later, all the teachers she had met had fallen short in some way. So she was watching Swami Vivekananda very carefully. Oh, what's his defect? He's going to fall short. He's something. There's going to be something. And so there they were in a New York brownstone. And those long, narrow buildings. And in those, on the first floor, there was always a narrow drawing room with high folding doors at one end and 2 large windows at the other. And between them, a mirror reaching from floor to ceiling. And this is how she writes about it. This mirror seemed to fascinate the Swami. He stood before it again and again, gazing at himself intently. In between, he walked up and down the room, lost in thought. Miss Waldo's eyes followed him anxiously. Now the bubble is going to burst, she thought. He is full of personal vanity. Suddenly he turned to her and said, Ellen, it is the strangest thing. I cannot remember what I look like. I look and look at myself in the glass, but the moment I turn away, I forget completely what I look like. So this is the Swami Vivekananda's utter lack of self-consciousness, of self-concern. His mind has risen to such a level, he's so identified with his true self, he can't even remember what his physical form looks like. So I love that description. Well, Swami Vivekananda, though himself he was clearly he displayed true humility on many occasions, yet he didn't like the term. And to Mary Hale, his dear American sister, he wrote, I do not believe in humility. I believe in samadarshitvam, same state of mind with regard to all. This is in that famous letter where he scolds. He had gotten into an argument with a very narrow-minded Presbyterian priest or Presbyterian minister, and then he was criticized for doing so. And Mary Hill wrote him a letter. What happened to that sweet Swami who was at the Parliament of Religions and all love and harmony and humility? And now look at you're fighting with everybody. And so he fires back at her. I have only a message to give, and my time is running out, and I have no time to be sweet and all of that. But in this letter, he says, I do not believe in humility. I believe in samadarshitvam, same state of mind with regard to all. And I think this is a wonderful key to what is true humility, actually is this samadarshitvam, same-sightedness. I look on all with the same eye of evenness. I see, why? How can I do that? Because I have the atma bhava. I have the mood, the understanding that my true nature is not my body. My true nature is not my mind with all its likes and dislikes. My true nature is not my personality. My true nature is that consciousness which enlivens this whole system. That consciousness which is divine and is of the very nature of bliss. That is my true self. I am Atma. And that Atma, that self, it abides whether the body lives or the body goes. And knowing that, I know that that same consciousness enlivens every being, is shining in the heart of every being. And so I look with the same eye of respect on everyone. It doesn't mean I can't fight with the Presbyterian priest when his narrow-mindedness needs widening. But behind that, I recognize the same self even in the Presbyterian priest. So he quotes the Bhagavad Gita, the chapter 5, verse 19. They indeed have conquered heaven even in this life, whose mind has become fixed in sameness. The previous verse has this same idea. The knowers of the self look with an equal eye on a holy person, endowed with learning and humility, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and an outcast. That samadarshinaha. Darshinaha or darshitva refers to sight, to seeing, drish, to see. And sama, the same. We have that same sightedness. We look with the same eye of evenness, of respect, of knowing the divine shining in all. So this, I think, is our most mature definition of humility that we can arrive at today with Swami Vivekananda's help. When we redefine our identity and recognize that our limited personality, our body and mind are not who we truly are. So it is easier when we feel ourselves to be that pure soul, to hold the rest of it gently. All right, I like this, I don't like that. All right, but I don't identify with that like and dislike so much. I can hold it gently. I can reduce the strength of my likes and dislikes. and focus rather on my love. It goes, Samadarshitva is not about seeing all as the same on the surface. We're all different on the surface. We are wonderfully diverse. Look at just us here in this hall. What a diverse group of people. How wonderful. That doesn't mean, you're all the same. But that one divinity shining in all our hearts. So it's recognizing the unity within the diversity. We enjoy the diversity and see also the unity. And towards those who are maybe more gifted than us, we don't envy them because we know the same self abides in them. We can learn from them. Towards those below, maybe we exceed others in some respects. We have no feeling of arrogance or condescension towards them. Rather, if needed, we try to serve them, to help them, without feeling superior. I'd like to take up one more idea today. That's this idea of recognizing interconnectedness, recognizing how everything actually is interconnected. And I like to use this example of, say, an apple. This is a nice looking apple. It grew on a tree somewhere. So in this apple is the tree. It grew on that tree. Now the tree, it was, of course, growing on the soil. So on the earth. So in this tree is the soil, the earth. And that tree was nourished by the rains. It was nourished by it was sort of irrigated by the rain. So in this apple is the rain. And of course, the fuel for that tree is the sunlight. So in this apple is the sun. And where does the rain come from? Well, the sun evaporates the oceans, and the oceans form clouds and rain down. And so in this apple are the oceans. And the flower blossoms on that apple tree were pollinated in order to produce this fruit by bees. So in this apple there's a honeybee. And it was plucked by someone off that tree. I don't know where, the sticker is removed, so where maybe it came from Washington State. So maybe a migrant worker from Guatemala plucked this apple in Washington State. And it was loaded onto a truck driven by a Punjabi truck driver who drove it down to Santa Barbara. And he was driving a truck made of steel that comes from a plant in Pennsylvania. And the tires are made with rubber from the rubber trees in Brazil. And the fuel is from an oil well in Abu Dhabi, but put on a ship and brought to Texas and refined in Texas into gasoline. So when we start to look at it this way, all that is here. We have Guatemala, we have Punjab, we have Abu Dhabi, we have Texas, we have Brazil, we have the whole world in this one apple. Then, to eat such an apple is a remarkable act of communion with the whole world. It's a sacred act. Thinking in this way, at least to me, brings up a feeling of, on the one hand, a kind of awe, an awe that actually the whole world is contained in this apple. And if we extend that, we see that it's the same for everything. How we have come here, how we have grown up. Our lives depend on the sacrifice of thousands of other human beings. And our sacrifice supports thousands of other human beings. So on the one hand, this tremendous awe, and on the other hand, gratitude. A gratitude This apple, it's not my apple, even though maybe I paid for it. So I think, I paid for this, it's my apple now. It's, it's actually the world contained in this apple. This apple could only come to me due to the coming together of all those things that we've mentioned and so many more. So this brings about, to my mind, a true humility at seeing how the whole world is interconnected. And then, of course, from our Vedantic standpoint, on the even deeper level, we are all rooted in the divine. And so that is the deepest, on the deepest level also we are rooted in the divine. We are all deeply interconnected. So, in conclusion, we discussed today this idea of humility, and I tried to reframe it so that humility is not having a low opinion of ourselves, but of having reducing our self-preoccupation, having a clear understanding of ourselves. Ultimately, it is true humility is this samadarshitva, this same-sightedness, understanding the same divine self shines in all. And when we add the practice of seeing the interconnectedness, we bring in a sense of gratitude, which is a kind of practice for cultivating humility, the practice of looking at the interconnectedness and feeling that gratitude. In that case, as we develop this kind of humility, we realize that it's not a weakness. It's actually a strength because it's grounded in the divine. It's grounded in our identifying ourselves more and more with the divine. We can even call it a kind of fearlessness because we don't have to be afraid that someone's going to criticize us. We don't have to defend ourselves. We don't have to prop ourselves up to pretend, for we are the self. We are divine. And we can relinquish the efforts to be someone and simply let our authentic self shine. Knowing the interconnectedness of all, we dwell in samadarshitva, the same-sightedness and gratitude. May we taste that sweet, humble pie of the samadarshitva and gratitude. Thank you.
Hummingbirds kissing every flower, butterflies dancing all around, birds soaring high up to the heavens. I hear their songs come round and round, silhouette mountains in the distance, pepper trees swaying in the breeze, sun shining down on every shoulder, babbling rivers flow with peace. Sun shining down on every shoulder, babbling rivers flow with peace. Sometimes this life falls down upon me, shadows appear from every side. Where is the beauty I was seeing? I look around, but it does hide. I pray for sun to light the shadows. I pray for beauty in my eyes. I pray for peace around this planet. Deep in our hearts it does abide. I pray for peace around this planet. Deep in our hearts it does abide. Hummingbirds fill me up with nectar, butterflies butterflies fill my soul with dance. Birds fill my heart, oh love was singing. Everywhere I see abundance. Beautiful visions in the mountains. Colors abounding here and there. Endless the tapestry of living. All things connected everywhere. Endless the tapestry of living. All things connected everywhere. All things connected everywhere. All things connected
Next Sunday, our speaker will be Swami Mahayogananda. His topic is spiritual bypassing, an important topic. And in between, Wednesdays is a reading at 5 p.m. God lived with them. Currently, the chapter on Swami Vijnanananda. These are the life stories of the disciples of Ramakrishna, the monks who were first monks of our order. That's Wednesday. And Saturday is 5 p.m. is the reading and discussion of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna with Swami Chidbrahmananda, our Swami C. So that's when he's here. He does the gospel class every Saturday at 5. Except when Swami Sarvadevananda is here, then it's Gita class. And any other announcements? That's it. Okay. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts with you. I do appreciate that, and wish you a blessed day and week. I'll close with a chant. Om asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityormamritangamaya aviravirma edhi rudrayate dakshinam mukham tena mam pahi nityam. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. From the unreal, lead us to the real. From darkness, lead us unto light. From death, lead us to immortality. Reach us through and through ourselves, and evermore protect us from ignorance by thy sweet, compassionate face. Om, peace, peace, peace.